It's 3 in the goddamn morning when the door doesn't just open, it fucking explodes. The sound isn't a crack, it's a concussive blast, a brutal violation of the silent Chicago night. Wood, metal, and the illusion of safety spray across the polished oak floor like shrapnel. Before the splinters even settle, 3 figures, no, 3 predators, breach the threshold, a black tide of tactical gear and aggression. Their flashlights aren't for seeing. They're weapons, sharp blades of pure white light that slash through the darkness, carving up the space, dissecting a life. The lead detective, a man whose face seems permanently set in a sneer of contempt, grinds the shattered doorframe under the heel of his boot. That crunch echoes in the sudden silence, a sound of absolute authority. His sergeant, a thick-necked bull of a man, follows a half-step behind, his hand resting on the holstered pistol at his hip, a gesture that's less about readiness and more about broadcasting menace. Lagging behind them, framed by the gaping maw where a door used to be, their captain surveys the destruction with an unnerving stillness, a general watching his shock troops advance. What would you do, woken from a dead sleep by the sound of your world being torn apart? Before you even think about it, do me a favor and smash that like button and subscribe, because you are about to witness an absolute masterclass in flipping the script. This isn't just a story, it's a lesson. The woman in the bed is thrown from sleep into a nightmare. She jolts upright, the cheap cotton sheets instantly tangling around her legs like a trap. The harsh, strobing beams of their flashlights blind her, a physical assault of pure photons. She's wearing nothing but a pair of simple gray boy shorts and a black tank top, the bare minimum for sleeping through a humid Illinois summer night. Hands. Let me see your fucking hands now. The detective's voice is a rusty bark, a sound designed to terrify and command instant submission. She raises them slowly, not out of fear, but with a deliberate, measured calm that feels utterly alien in the chaos. As her pupils adjust, the scene snaps into focus. It's not just the door. Her apartment has been ransacked with a feral intensity. The mahogany bookshelf is toppled, its contents spilling across the floor. Drawers are wrenched from her antique dresser, their intimate contents, socks, underwear, personal letters, vomited onto the rug. This wasn't a search. It was a desecration. Then, the lead detective's flashlight beam, which had been dancing around the room like a manic firefly, freezes. It lands on the bedroom wall. Hanging there, perfectly pressed and almost glowing in the intense light, is a navy blue windbreaker. Across the back, in bold, gold, authoritative letters, are 3 simple characters. FBI. The beam holds on the jacket for 1 second, 2, 3, an eternity. The detective's radio, clipped to his shoulder, crackles with the mundane chatter of the city's underbelly, a sound that suddenly seems to be broadcasting from another planet. The sergeant's breathing, once a steady, intimidating huff, hitches. You can't see it, but you can feel it. The air in the room changes. The pressure drops. The energy shifts from a predator-prey dynamic to something uncertain, something dangerous. That jacket hangs there like a silent, unimpeachable witness, a symbol of a power far greater than their city-issued badges. But they don't stop. They can't. To stop now would be to admit the catastrophic scale of their mistake. They are in too deep. They have kicked in the wrong door, at the wrong time, in the wrong fucking universe. They just don't know the full extent of it yet. She watches them. These 3 armed men who have shattered her home, and she does it with the cold, detached calm of an auditor taking inventory of a bankrupt company. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, don't just see them. They record them. She tracks their badge numbers as the light flashes across their chests. She makes a mental note of the exact time displayed on her digital alarm clock. 3:17 a.m. When the brutish sergeant begins his rough, invasive search of her dresser, pawing through her belongings with greasy fingers. She doesn't flinch. She memorizes the contours of his face, the scar above his left eyebrow, the slight tremor in his hands that betrays a nervousness he's trying to hide. Most victims panic. Most people scream or cry or beg. She calculates, she assesses, she builds her case. The lead detective, Harding, finds her purse on the nightstand. His hands move with a practiced, sleazy efficiency. It's a skill honed not on the streets, but in the shadows, a muscle memory for planting, not discovering. He shields the purse with his body for a fraction of a second, his movements a sleight-of-hand trick for an audience of one. He slides something small and plastic into a side pocket before pulling his hand back out with a flourish. "Well, well, well," he announces, his voice dripping with faux surprise, a performance for the body cameras he believes will be his alibi. "Look what we have here." And that's when the woman's lips curve into the faintest, most chilling of smiles. Because right there on the dresser, in plain, undeniable sight, is her federal credentials folder. A thick, leather-bound portfolio they walked right past in their frenzied rush to find what wasn't there and plant what they'd brought. On her nightstand, an encrypted satellite phone continues to charge silently, its single green light a tiny beacon in the wreckage. 15 years of federal cases, thousands of hours of surveillance, and the entire infrastructure of a massive public corruption investigation live inside that device. Harding holds up the small plastic baggie. A dusting of white powder catches the flashlight beam, glittering like cheap diamonds. The woman's fingers, still raised in the air, trace the edge of her bedsheet. Underneath that thin layer of cotton is something they missed entirely. Something that makes the planted drugs, the broken door, and their entire pathetic display of force utterly irrelevant. The phone on her nightstand holds 15 years of secrets. Detective Harding has no idea who he just woke up, but she knows exactly who he is. She knows why they're here. This isn't a random drug raid. This isn't a case of mistaken identity. This is the culmination of everything she has been working towards for years. This is the moment they finally took the bait. The case files scattered across her floor don't just tell a story. They tell a different story than the one these corrupt officers think they're writing tonight. And her digital audio recorder, a high-gain, low-profile device cleverly hidden inside the base of her bedroom lamp, has been running since the precise moment the door exploded. Every word, every grunt, every planted piece of evidence, every clear-as-day constitutional violation, all of it captured, all of it preserved. The Sergeant Miller moves to her closet now, his hands still shaking slightly as he works. Good. He should be nervous. He should be terrified. The woman, Agent Eva Rostova, remains perfectly still, a statue of composure in the eye of a hurricane. But her mind is a whirlwind, racing through federal protocols, evidence chain of custody procedures, constitutional law, and the specific civil rights statutes they are currently violating. They have no idea what they've just walked into. They think they're raiding a mid-level dealer. In reality, they have just walked, mouths agape, into the jaws of a meticulously constructed federal trap. Eva sits up a little straighter on the bed, the movement so subtle it's almost imperceptible, yet it carries an immense weight of authority. Her voice, when she speaks, is not the voice of a victim. It's calm, level, and cuts through the tension like a surgeon's scalpel. "I need to see your warrant." Harding scoffs, a dismissive, ugly sound. "We don't need a warrant for a noise complaint, sweetheart." "You do for a search this extensive," she replies, her voice unwavering. The legal precision of her statement makes Sergeant Miller actually pause, his hands frozen midway through ripping a dress from its hanger. "You have exceeded the scope of any possible noise complaint investigation. This is now an illegal search." Harding's jaw tightens, a muscle twitching in his cheek. What, are you some kind of lawyer? I know my rights under the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, she states, her voice as flat and hard as a courtroom table. She keeps it perfectly level, professional, cold. This is an illegal search and seizure. The captain, Thorne, who has been observing silently from the doorway, finally steps forward. His presence commands a different kind of attention, less brutish than his subordinates, more insidiously powerful. Ma'am, we received reports of ongoing drug activity at this address. From whom? Eva's question is immediate, a sharp return of serve. What was the specific, articulable probable cause that justified a no-knock, forced entry raid on this residence? The three men exchange fleeting, uneasy glances. The question hangs in the charged air like smoke from a just-fired gun. Miller, the sergeant, recovers first, his voice a low growl. Anonymous tip. Said you were dealing coke. 4. An anonymous tip, uncorroborated by independent police work, does not justify a warrantless search of a private residence, much less a forced entry. Eva's legal knowledge flows effortlessly, a river of precedent cutting through their flimsy justifications. That was established in Florida versus JL. Your entire presence here is fruit of the poisonous tree. Everything you find, everything you do from this point forward is inadmissible. Harding's face darkens with rage. This isn't how it's supposed to go. Suspects are supposed to be scared, stupid, and easy to intimidate. You think you're so fucking smart, don't you? I think you're violating federal law. The words hit him like a physical slap. Not state law, not city ordinances. Federal law. The one that comes with federal agents, federal prosecutors, and federal prison time. Captain Thorne clears his throat, a nervous, gravelly sound. Let's just get her processed and out of here. But Eva isn't finished. She's just getting started. I need your badge numbers. All 3 of you. You're not in a position to be making demands, Miller snarls, taking a menacing step toward the bed. Every citizen has the right to identify the officers who are conducting a search of their home, legal or otherwise. She looks directly at each man, her gaze locking onto theirs, pinning them in place. Badge numbers, now. Harding's hand instinctively, almost childishly, moves to cover his badge. It's a move that screams guilt. You don't need to. The law disagrees, she says, her calm, relentless persistence beginning to unravel them. They are used to dealing with the panicked, the confused, the easily manipulated dregs of society. This woman, this anomaly, dissects their procedure like a hostile attorney cross-examining a lying witness. Captain Thorne, realizing that continued refusal will only look worse on the recording he now suspects is being made, provides his number reluctantly. The other 2 follow suit, their voices low and resentful. Eva repeats each number back perfectly, a verbal timestamp, cementing them in her memory and on her hidden recorder. I also need verbal confirmation that your body cameras are currently recording. Miller's hand flutters to the device on his chest. The small red light blinks with a steady, damning rhythm. They're recording. Good, Eva says, a hint of steel in her voice. So when this goes to federal court, there will be a complete and untampered record of your misconduct. Federal court, there's that word again. It's a threat, and they all know it. Harding leans in closer, his face just inches from hers, his breath sour. Listen, lady, we found a bag of cocaine in your purse. You can cooperate with us, and maybe we can help you out. Or we can make this real hard for you. Are you threatening me, detective? I'm giving you your options. Eva studies his face, the tiny beads of sweat on his upper lip, the frantic, cornered look in his eyes. Let me see if I understand. Option 1. I confess to a felony I didn't commit, based on evidence you planted. Option 2. You manufacture additional charges to punish me for asserting my constitutional rights. The room goes absolutely silent. The only sound, the faint, omnipresent hiss of radio static. You got a real smart mouth on you, Miller says, breaking the silence. I have constitutional rights, she replies, her voice unwavering. Harding has had enough. He pulls out a pair of handcuffs. You're under arrest for possession of a controlled substance. As the cold metal clicks shut around her wrists, the sharp teeth biting into her skin. Eva speaks clearly, her voice directed not at them, but at the blinking red lights on their chests. For the record, I am being arrested based on evidence planted by the arresting officers. The officers conducted an illegal search without probable cause or a valid warrant. I did not and do not consent to this search. Shut up, Harding hisses, his face contorted in a mask of fury. I have the right to remain silent, she continues, her voice never wavering. But I also have the right to speak. This is a false arrest predicated on fabricated evidence. Miller grabs her arm, his grip unnecessarily tight, and yanks her from the bed. Move it! She complies, allowing them to lead her, but she keeps speaking, creating an undeniable record of the events. I am requesting immediate access to legal counsel. I am requesting a supervising officer be called to this location. I am requesting an immediate review of all body camera footage related to this incident. Each request is a perfectly executed legal maneuver. Her knowledge of procedure is too precise, too professional. This isn't something she learned from watching TV. Captain Thorne studies her carefully as they escort her through the destroyed living room. Something is profoundly wrong. She isn't just a lawyer. This is different. As they guide her through the wreckage of her life, she continues to catalog every violation out loud. Excessive force, unlawful entry, evidence tampering, a litany of their crimes, narrated for the benefit of their own recording devices. As they reach the splintered front door, Harding, his frustration boiling over, makes a critical mistake. He asks the question that has been clawing at the inside of his skull. How the hell do you know so much about police procedure? Eva doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. Her silence is louder and more damning than any words she could utter. Her federal credentials folder still sits on the dresser, a silent, leather-bound indictment. The planted evidence isn't the only thing that's out of place in this room. She is. At the front door, the full weight of that realization finally seems to land on Sergeant Miller. Her questions were too specific, her language too precise, her calm too complete. Normal people don't quote case law while they're being arrested. Normal people don't demand body camera reviews and name supervising officers. Normal people don't know the intricate dance of federal court procedure. Harding shoves her toward the waiting patrol car, but the confident swagger is gone from his movements. A creeping, insidious doubt has poisoned his voice. You ever been arrested before? No, she says simply. Then how do you? He trails off, unable to finish the question. He can't finish it because he's starting to suspect that the answer is worse than anything he's prepared to handle. Miller opens the back door of the squad car. The night air is filled with the cacophony of the city and the endless chatter of the police radio. Dispatch calls filter through the static. A domestic disturbance on Archer Avenue, a traffic stop on the Dan Ryan Expressway. The normal, mundane rhythm of police work continues, a stark contrast to the career-ending mistake these men are currently making. Eva slides into the back seat without resistance. Through the window, she watches them. They move about her apartment with a mock professionalism, bagging the drugs they planted, photographing the damage they caused. They are meticulously documenting everything except the truth. But the truth has a way of documenting itself. Her encrypted phone is still charging on the nightstand. Her federal files are still scattered across the bedroom floor. Her credentials still sit in plain sight. And the digital recorder in the bedroom lamp is still running, capturing every whispered, panicked word that now passes between them. She sees Harding slam the car door and turn to the captain. The sound is muffled through the glass, but she's an expert lip reader. "Something's way off about her," Harding says. "How so?" Thorne replies, his face grim. "She knows too much. Way too much." Thorne glances back at the car, his eyes locking with Eva's for a brief moment. He sees the calm, calculating intelligence in her gaze, and a flicker of genuine fear crosses his face. "Run her name the second we get to the station." "Already planning on it," Harding mutters. But they have already waited too long. They have already made too many mistakes. They have already left behind a mountain of evidence against themselves. The woman sitting calmly in the back of their patrol car isn't their victim. She is their reckoning. The patrol car pulls away from the curb, leaving the destroyed apartment behind. Broken glass glitters on the asphalt under the streetlights like fallen stars. Harding drives, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, while Miller rides shotgun, staring straight ahead, refusing to look back. Captain Thorne follows in his own unmarked vehicle, standard procedure for a high-value felony arrest. But this isn't standard anything. Eva sits in the back cage, handcuffed behind her back. The thick metal partition separates her from the two officers in the front. She uses the faint reflection in the plexiglass to study their faces, their tense shoulders, the way they can't stop glancing at each other. Miller finally breaks the silence, turning around in his seat. "You gonna tell us what you really do for a living?" She doesn't respond. She just stares back at him, her expression unreadable. "Strong, silent type, huh?" Harding sneers, adjusting his rearview mirror to get a better look at her. "We'll see how long that lasts down at the station." Through the radio, dispatch continues its endless litany of the city's woes. A robbery in progress in Lincoln Park. A fender bender on Lake Shore Drive. The night continues its normal, brutal rhythm, completely oblivious to the fact that these three men have just set a time bomb, and they are sitting right on top of it. Miller's voice drops to a conspiratorial whisper, so low he thinks she won't be able to hear it. "You think she heard anything? About the investigation?" Harding glances nervously into the rearview mirror. "What investigation?" "You know what fucking investigation, man. Kingfisher." A long pause. The radio static fills the suffocating silence. "She can't know about that," Harding says finally, but his voice is thin, threaded with a doubt that he can no longer conceal. Eva memorizes every word, every hushed admission, every panicked tell. Operation Kingfisher. They've just given her the final piece of the puzzle she's been building for 2 years. They turn onto Michigan Avenue. The 18th District Police Station glows ahead, a fortress of concrete and cold fluorescent lighting. It's a place of bureaucracy and process, a place where they think they can make her disappear into the system, bury her under a mountain of falsified paperwork. Harding parks the car in the Sally Port, the secure prisoner transport area. A dozen security cameras track their arrival, their unblinking electronic eyes recording every move. "Listen," Miller says, turning around one last time. His tough guy act is gone, replaced by a desperate, pleading tone. "This can go easy, or it can go hard. It all depends on you." Eva meets his eyes in the partition's reflection. Her voice is a whisper of ice. "Which way preserves your careers?" The question hits them like a bucket of ice water. Harding kills the engine. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "It means you should think very, very carefully about your next moves." Miller lets out a laugh, but it's a brittle, forced sound. "Lady, you're the one in handcuffs." For now, she says. 2 words. Simple, quiet, and utterly terrifying. Harding gets out first, yanks open her door. The cuffs bite deeper into her wrists as he pulls her to her feet. "We're going to teach you some respect," he mutters under his breath. She doesn't resist as he guides her toward the building's entrance, but she is still working, still cataloging. Every rough grab, every unnecessary push, every single violation of prisoner transport protocols. The body cameras are still rolling, and so is her own recorder. Inside the station, the fluorescent lights buzz with a sound that gets under your skin. The air smells of stale coffee, disinfectant, and quiet desperation. The booking sergeant, a weary-looking veteran named Kowalski, looks up from his mountain of paperwork. "What we got, Harding?" "Coke possession. Looks like she might be a dealer. And add resisting arrest to that," Harding says, shoving her toward the desk. Ava speaks clearly, her voice cutting through the station's low hum. "I did not resist arrest." "Shut up," Harding snaps. Kowalski frowns. He's been doing this job for 30 years. He can smell a bad arrest from a mile away. Something in this woman's voice, her posture, doesn't match the charges. "I need to make my phone call," she says. "You'll get your call when we say you can get it," Harding barks. "That's a violation of my rights," she states calmly. Kowalski's frown deepens. He looks at Harding. "Ma'am, you have the right to—" "She knows her goddamn rights," Harding interrupts, his voice sharp with panic. "She won't shut up about them." The standard booking procedure begins. Fingerprints, photographs, personal property inventory. When they empty her purse on the counter, Kowalski begins cataloging the items: wallet, keys, a tube of lip balm, and the leather credentials folder. He picks it up, opens it. He freezes. "Hey, Harding," he says, his voice suddenly very quiet. "Says here she works for the federal government." Harding's hand freezes over the keyboard he's been using to input her information. "What kind of federal work?" Eva stays silent. She doesn't need to speak. Her employment verification will do all the talking for her. Kowalski turns to his computer terminal and begins typing in her information. The system processes the data, cross-referencing it with dozens of federal and state databases. Suddenly, the screen flashes bright red. A loud, insistent beep fills the room. A warning pops up, blocking the entire screen. "Detective," Kowalski calls out, his voice now laced with alarm. "You need to see this." Harding walks over to the terminal. He reads the screen. His face, already pale, goes completely white. Eva's federal ID number hasn't just flagged her as a government employee. It has triggered a specific, high-level security protocol. The system identifies her as a Grade 14 special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. 15-year veteran. Current assignment: Public Integrity Section. Internal Affairs Division. Investigating Officer, Operation Kingfisher. Harding's radio crackles with an urgent message from Captain Thorne, but it's too late for urgency. It's too late for anything. They have already crossed every line, violated every rule, and sealed their own fates. Kowalski looks from the terrifying warning on the screen to the woman in handcuffs. His 30 years of training kick in. Federal law enforcement officers require a completely different set of protocols. Special notifications must be made. "I need to make some calls," he says quietly, reaching for the phone. Harding grabs his arm. "Not yet." "Detective, if she's who this says she is—" "She's a suspect," Harding hisses, his voice a desperate rasp. "Nothing more." But the computer screen tells a different story. And computers don't lie. Ava watches their carefully constructed world shatter. She sees the panic build in their eyes, sees the exact moment their arrogance cracks and crumbles into pure, unadulterated fear. She has been waiting 15 years for this. For these 3 specific officers to finally make the mistake that would be big enough, stupid enough, to bring down their entire corrupt empire. Tonight, they didn't just kick in the wrong door. They kicked in the door of the one federal agent in the entire country who had the power, the evidence, and the will to destroy them. And somewhere, deep in the building, a young, idealistic officer named Chen is reviewing the body camera footage from the raid, and her blood is turning to ice. Have you ever had a moment where you realized everything you believed in was a lie? Let me know in the comments. We've all been there. Officer Maya Chen sits in the sterile quiet of the equipment room, the hum of charging electronics the only sound. Her hands are shaking as she fast-forwards through the video feed from Harding's camera. The timestamp glows in the corner. 03:17:12. The door explodes inward, the woman in her underwear, hands raised, her calm voice requesting a warrant. Chen rewinds, plays it again in slow motion. Something is fundamentally horribly wrong with this arrest. The woman quotes case law like she's reading from a textbook. She requests badge numbers with a professional precision that Chen has only ever seen in training videos. She knows federal court procedures better than half the DAs Chen has ever met. Chen pauses the footage, zooming in on the woman's face. There's no panic, no confusion, just a cold, crystalline calculation. It's the look of someone gathering evidence. The next clip shows the discovery of the drugs. Chen's stomach clenches into a tight, sick knot. Harding's hands move too smoothly, his body shielding the purse for just a moment too long. It's a classic plant. She's heard the whispers, the locker room jokes about flaking a suspect, but she's never seen it. Never had it recorded on her own department's equipment. She fast-forwards to the arrest. The woman's voice is clear and strong, cutting through the radio static like a bell. I'm being arrested based on planted evidence. Direct, legally precise, a statement for the record. On a hunch, Chen runs the woman's name, which she got from the booking report, through the federal database, a system she only has low-level access to. The results make her blood freeze in her veins. FBI Special Agent, 15 years of service, current assignment, Public Corruption Unit. The very same unit that everyone has been whispering about for months. The one rumored to be investigating their department. Chen's hands tremble so badly she can barely hold her phone. The FBI's general tip line number is one of the first things they memorized at the academy. A number you hope you never have to use. She dials. Federal Bureau of Investigation. How can I help you? This is Officer Chen, Chicago PD, 18th District. I need to report a federal agent in custody. There's a beat of silence on the other end of the line. Can you repeat that, officer? We arrested a federal agent tonight. I think it was intentional. The silence is replaced by the frantic, percussive sound of furious typing. Agent's name. Chen reads from the database result on her screen. Rostova. Special Agent Eva Rostova, FBI Public Corruption Unit. More typing. Faster now. More urgent. Officer, where is Agent Rostova right now? A holding cell. They're trying to process her on felony drug charges. Are you certain about the drug charges? The voice on the phone asks, its tone now sharp, authoritative. Chen closes her eyes. The image from the body camera burned into her memory. Harding's sleight of hand, the baggie appearing from nowhere. The drugs were planted. Sir, I have it on body camera footage. The FBI agent's voice hardens into diamond. Officer Chen, listen to me very carefully. Do not let anyone delete that footage. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. We are sending a team. Your priority is to keep Agent Rostova safe. Do whatever you have to do. The line goes dead. Chen sits in the equipment room, surrounded by the blinking red lights of dozens of charging body cameras. Each device holds a fragment of the truth. Fragments of a corruption so deep, she's only now beginning to understand its scope. Her radio crackles to life. It's Captain Thorne's voice, tight and strained. "All units involved in the Rostova arrest expedite the processing. I want her transferred to Cook County within the hour." Chen's blood turns to ice. They're rushing it. They're trying to bury her in the labyrinthine county jail system, where federal oversight is slower, where things disappear. She quickly grabs the evidence bag containing Eva's personal effects. Inside, mixed with her wallet and keys, are her federal credentials: Special Agent Eva Rostova, and her badge number. The same badge number that appears on every internal investigation report that has been filed against their unit for the past 2 years. It all clicks into place with a sickening finality. Eva Rostova isn't just any federal agent. She is the agent investigating them. She has been for months, maybe years. Every suspicious arrest, every questionable search, every case that has ever made Chen's gut twist in suspicion. Eva Rostova's signature is on the investigation files. And tonight, like lambs to the slaughter, they handed her everything she needed to destroy them on a silver platter. Chen's conscience is at war with her loyalty. These men, Harding, Miller, Thorne, they trained her. They protected her on the street. They were her second family. But family doesn't plant evidence. Family doesn't violate the Constitution. Family doesn't knowingly arrest a federal agent who is investigating them for corruption. Her phone buzzes. It's a text message from Harding. "Delete the body cam footage from the raid. Equipment malfunction. Upload a corrupted file." Chen stares at the message. A clear, unambiguous, illegal order to obstruct justice. She types back 2 words. "Copy that." But she doesn't delete a thing. Instead, she opens a secure network portal she learned about in a federal law enforcement liaison class. She begins uploading the original, unedited footage to a secure federal server. The same server, she suspects, that Eva Rostova uses for her own evidence collection. Her next decision will define not just her career, but her entire life. Captain Thorne appears in the doorway, his face a thundercloud. "Chen, did you wipe that footage?" "Working on it now, sir," she says, not looking up from her screen. Thorne studies her face, searching for any sign of betrayal. "Good. This whole thing stays between us. Understand?" Chen nods, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Of course, sir." But Thorne's frantic pressure, his desperate need to cover this up, confirms everything. The rumors of a federal investigation weren't just rumors. Eva Rostova wasn't just investigating corruption. She had been living inside it, documenting it, and building an airtight case. And Maya Chen just became her star witness. FBI Assistant Director James Patel is jolted awake by the buzz of his secure phone on the nightstand. It's a sound he hasn't heard in years. The federal emergency protocol. He answers on the first ring. "Patel." "Sir, this is Agent Rostova's handler. We have a code black situation." Patel is out of bed before the words have even finished echoing in his ear. Eva Rostova is his best undercover investigator, a legend in the Bureau, 15 years of flawless, deep-cover service. "What's her status?" "Chicago PD arrested her an hour ago. Felony drug possession charges." "Sir, the arresting officers are her primary targets." Patel's jaw tightens so hard he hears his teeth grind. "Did they make her?" "Unknown, sir, but they planted evidence. We have body camera confirmation from a friendly officer on the inside." The assistant director is already pulling on his clothes, his mind a flurry of tactical calculations. "Where is she now?" 18th District holding. They're trying to rush a transfer to Cook County." "Negative. Stop that transfer immediately. I want federal marshals at that county intake in 10 minutes, Patel commands, while activating his emergency response team on another line. The Federal Rapid Response Unit mobilizes within minutes. Sir, there's more, the handler says, his voice grim. Agent Rostova's emergency beacon just activated. Patel freezes, his hand hovering over his tactical vest. Ava's beacon is a subdermal implant. It only activates under extreme duress or in a life-threatening situation. When? 30 seconds ago? The beacon's signal blossoms to life on Patel's phone screen. GPS coordinates lock onto the 18th District Police Station. Full federal response, now, Patel says, his voice deadly calm. He calls his second in command. Operation Kingfisher is compromised. Rostova's in custody. Jesus, how bad! They arrested our lead investigator while she was actively gathering evidence against them for a federal RICO case. Patel's team assembles at the federal building in downtown Chicago. Tactical units, evidence specialists, and internal affairs investigators move with a quiet, terrifying efficiency. The public corruption case they have been building for 2 years has just become a federal emergency. Eva Rostova doesn't just know about the police corruption in the 18th District. She is the corruption investigation. In the command vehicle, Patel briefs his team. Agent Rostova has been undercover for 18 months, living as a civilian, letting the targets build a case against her. Tonight's illegal arrest gives us everything we need to move. How so, sir? A young agent asks. They just provided direct, irrefutable evidence of the criminal conspiracy we've been investigating. They took the bait. The surveillance van, a nondescript plumber's van, positions itself across the street from the police station. Its sophisticated electronic equipment locks onto the station's internal communications. Police radios crackle with nervous, panicked chatter, officers discussing how to keep their stories straight. Patel listens through the Federal Intercept equipment. Every word is recorded. Every part of the conspiracy is documented. Sir, his communications officer reports, we're intercepting data wipe commands. They're trying to erase the body camera servers. Too late for that, Patel says, opening Eva's mastercase file on a hardened laptop. 15 years of corruption investigations, hundreds of documented violations, dozens of officers implicated across multiple departments. Tonight's arrest is the final, explosive piece that connects every dot. The van's equipment hums quietly. Federal warrants, pre-prepared for this exact contingency, are already signed and ready for execution. Director, we have movement inside. They're putting her in a transport vehicle. They're taking her to county. Not happening, Patel says. He radios his legal team. Execute the federal warrants. We are asserting full and total jurisdiction, now. The local police in the 18th District have no idea what is about to descend upon them. For 2 years, Eva Rostova has gathered evidence of their systematic corruption. And tonight, they handed her the final, bloody piece of the puzzle. Patel checks Ava's beacon again. It's still transmitting from inside the station. His team leaders prepare for immediate, dynamic entry. His radio crackles with confirmations. Federal agents now have a hard perimeter around the entire building. Patel's final order changes everything. All units, execute. Federal authority is now in effect. The cops in the 18th District think they just caught their biggest threat. In reality, they just activated their worst nightmare. Eva sits alone in the sterile gray box they call Interview Room 3. Gray walls, a scratched metal table, a single chair bolted to the floor. The fluorescent light overhead flickers erratically, a dying, buzzing heartbeat. Harding enters, slapping a thick file folder onto the table with a theatrical flair that has lost all its menace. It just seems pathetic now. Let's talk about your drug business, Eva. She doesn't respond. Her eyes are fixed on the small black dome of the security camera in the corner. The tiny red recording light is blinking steadily. We found a significant quantity of cocaine in your house. High-grade stuff. Street value of around $5,000. It was planted evidence, she says, her voice flat. Harding leans back in his chair, attempting a confident smirk. You sure about that? I watched you plant it. That's a very serious accusation. It's a documented fact, Eva replies, her voice as level as a frozen lake. He opens the file, a collection of fabricated reports, fictional surveillance notes, and a completely manufactured evidence chain. It's an impressive work of fiction. Says here you've been under surveillance for months. We have multiple witnesses who saw drug activity at your address. Name one, she challenges. Harding's pause stretches on for just a moment too long. They're confidential informants, anonymous sources. Anonymous sources who don't exist will have a hard time testifying in federal court. There's that word again. Federal. Harding's thin veneer of confidence finally cracks. You think federal court is going to save you? Eva meets his eyes, her gaze so intense it feels like a physical force. I think federal court is where this ends for you. Sergeant Miller bursts into the room without knocking, his face ashen. He leans in and whispers something urgent in Harding's ear. Harding's face hardens into a mask of disbelief and rage. Step outside. Now. They leave her alone in the interview room. Through the thin walls, she can hear their heated, panicked whispers. The computer flagged her. It's a full protocol lockdown. So what? She's federal law enforcement. So we just arrested a goddamn FBI agent, you idiot. She's a drug dealer who happens to work for the government. Harding, this is dangerous territory. This is career-ending shit. Eva uses the time alone to mentally catalog every last violation. Miranda rights delayed by over an hour. Her legal right to a phone call denied. Excessive force during transport. Each new violation is another nail in their collective coffin. Harding returns alone. He slams the door, the sound echoing in the small room. Let's try this again, he snarls, his voice shaking with a rage born of pure fear. Who is your cocaine supplier? I don't use or distribute cocaine. The evidence says you do. The planted evidence, she corrects him. His fist hits the table with a loud bang. Stop saying that! Eva doesn't even flinch. Stop planting evidence. Harding leans across the table, invading her personal space, a classic thuggish intimidation technique. You think you're so smart. You think you can outsmart us. Eva's next statement shatters his world into a million pieces. I think you've been the primary subject of a federal public corruption investigation, codenamed Operation Kingfisher, for the last 26 months. The room goes absolutely, profoundly silent, the only sound the frantic, buzzing flicker of the dying light overhead. Harding straightens up slowly, as if a string has been cut. What did you just say? Operation Kingfisher, she repeats, her voice as steady as a surgeon's hand. Does that ring any bells, Detective Harding? The blood drains from his face. Operation Kingfisher is a classified federal operation. Only a handful of federal investigators and the high-level corruption targets themselves would know that name. She continues, her voice a relentless, factual monotone. Systematic evidence planting, conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law, racketeering, extortion. Harding's hands are shaking uncontrollably now. How do you know about that? They're not just allegations, Detective, she says, twisting the knife. They're your crimes. He backs away toward the door, his hand fumbling for the handle. I need to make a call. Whom? To Captain Thorne, she asks. Or directly to your lawyer. You should choose carefully, Detective. Your next decisions matter a great deal. He flees the room, leaving Eva alone with her thoughts and the blinking red eye of the recording camera. Through the walls, she hears the frantic, desperate phone calls. She hears the panic spreading through the department like a virus. A moment later, the door opens. It's the young officer from the equipment room, Chen. Her energy is a chaotic mix of fear and resolve. "Ma'am," she says, her voice trembling slightly. "I brought you some water." Chen sets a small paper cup on the table. As she does, her hand brushes against Eva's. Something passes between them. A silent, instantaneous understanding. An alliance. Chen has slipped her a tiny, folded piece of paper. Eva palms it without looking, waiting until the young officer has left the room before she reads it. 3 sentences. "FBI knows. Help is coming. Stay strong." A wave of profound relief, the first positive emotion she has allowed herself to feel all night, washes over her. Her backup knows. They're coming. The interview room door opens again. This time it's Captain Thorne himself. His face is a wreck, a hollow mask of terror. The pretense is gone. The game is over. "Agent Rostova," he begins, the name tasting like ash in his mouth. Not ma'am, not suspect, Agent Rostova. His acknowledgement changes everything. Eva stands up slowly, the power dynamic in the room now completely inverted. "I'd like my phone call now, Captain." "Of course, Agent Rostova. Right this way." As Officer Chen escorts her to the phone, she slips Eva something else, something she retrieved from the evidence locker. Her federal badge. The familiar, solid weight of it in her hand is a profound comfort. Soon, very soon, the real investigation, the one that ends in handcuffs for them, will begin. At the release desk, Captain Thorne's smile is a grotesque, painted-on thing. Professional courtesy masking pure, unadulterated terror. All charges are being dropped, pending further investigation. The booking sergeant, Kowalski, processes her release papers with hands that move with frantic speed. He's eager, desperate to get her out of his building. Eva collects her personal items: wallet, keys, her credentials, and her encrypted phone. The screen shows 23 missed calls from FBI headquarters. "We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience, Agent," Thorne says, his voice slick with false sincerity. Eva doesn't respond. She signs the release forms in a deliberate, chilling silence. "No hard feelings, I hope?" Thorne tries, a last pathetic attempt. Eva looks directly at him, her eyes as cold and gray as a winter storm over Lake Michigan. "That remains to be seen, Captain." The words hang in the air between them like a loaded gun. Outside the police station, the first hint of dawn is beginning to bleed across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gray and bruised purple. Eva walks to her car, knowing that a dozen pairs of eyes are watching her from the station windows. She gets in, starts the engine, and immediately activates the full audio and video recording suite on her phone. Every conversation, every interaction, every piece of evidence is now being captured and uploaded in real time to a secure federal server. The phone buzzes instantly. It's Patel. His voice is a lifeline. "Rostova, are you secure?" "Negative," she replies, her voice low. "I'm still under active surveillance from the station." "Copy that. Federal units are in position and awaiting your signal." Eva doesn't drive away. She sits there in the parking lot, the phone pressed to her ear, a silent act of defiance. "Status report," Patel demands. "They provided everything we needed, sir. The planted evidence is on their own body cameras. The constitutional violations are all documented, and they gave me verbal confirmation of a conspiracy to obstruct justice. We have it all." "Outstanding work, Agent." Through her rearview mirror, Eva watches the lights flick on in almost every window of the police station, an anthill that has just been kicked. Sir, they know about Operation Kingfisher. How? I told them. Patel's deep, booming laugh crackles through the phone. Perfect. Let them panic. Inside the station, Captain Thorne paces his office like a caged animal. Harding and Miller sit across from his desk like two guilty schoolchildren awaiting the principal's wrath. Do you have any idea what you have done? Thorne screams, his voice cracking. We followed procedure, Harding bleats, his voice thin and reedy. You arrested the lead federal agent investigating our entire department for racketeering, Thorne roars. We didn't know. You should have known. Thorne yanks open his desk drawer and pulls out a thick, red file labeled Confidential Federal Investigation. She's been watching us for 2 years. Miller goes pale. 2 years? Every arrest, every search, every gram of evidence we've ever planted. Thorne throws the file across his desk. Pages scatter, filled with internal memos, surveillance reports, and evidence logs, all documenting their corruption, all signed at the bottom by Special Agent Eva Rostova. She has everything, Thorne says, his voice a dead whisper. Harding's phone buzzes. A text message from an unknown number. Federal warrants have been executed. You have 30 minutes to secure legal counsel. His hands shake so badly he can barely hold the phone to show Thorne. It's over, Thorne says. But on Eva's phone, a different message from Patel appears. Federal raid commencing. Operation Kingfisher is now in its final phase. Ava puts her car in drive. Time to go home and wait for the news. Thorne's order to destroy the evidence comes far too late. It has all been uploaded. It is all secure. It has all been distributed to federal prosecutors. Harding runs to the equipment room and finds the body camera docking stations. They are all connected to an external network. A federal network. Every piece of footage has been automatically backed up to FBI servers in Quantico. Chen, he screams, but Officer Chen left an hour ago. She called in sick. She won't be back. Eva's phone buzzes one last time. It's a final confirmation from Patel. The federal investigation she has been building for 15 long years is finally complete. Every corrupt act documented, every civil rights violation recorded, every strand of the conspiracy mapped out in excruciating detail. Tonight's arrest wasn't their victory. It was her final brilliant act of evidence collection. The biggest mistake of their careers just became the cornerstone of her federal case. Ava pulls out of the parking lot. In her rearview mirror, the police station is a hive of desperate, futile activity. Too little. Too late. The real investigation is about to begin. And this time, she won't be the one in handcuffs. At precisely 6 a.m., a fleet of black, unmarked SUVs descends upon the 18th District Police Station, surrounding it in a silent, menacing perimeter. FBI tactical teams, clad in black from head to toe, exit the vehicles in perfect, disciplined formation. Federal marshals take up positions at every entrance and exit. Assistant Director Patel leads the operation personally, his face a grim mask of determination. Inside the station, Thorne watches through his office window as the federal storm breaks. They're here! Harding and Miller stand frozen in the middle of the squad room as federal agents pour through the front doors, a black, unstoppable tide. Patel's voice, amplified by a bullhorn, booms across the station, a voice of absolute authority. Federal Bureau of Investigation. This facility is now under federal jurisdiction. No one leaves. No one touches a computer. No one makes a phone call. The local officers scatter like startled birds. Some instinctively reach for their weapons. Others raise their hands in surrender. Stand down, Patel commands. All personnel will comply with federal authority, or you will be charged with obstruction of a federal investigation. Thorne emerges from his office, his hands held high and visible. Director Patel, this is highly irregular. Captain Thorne, Patel replies, his voice dripping with contempt. You are under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law. The words echo through the station like gunshots. Federal agents swarm the building with a terrifying efficiency. Evidence teams secure computers and servers. Technical specialists begin downloading every byte of data from the body camera systems. Legal experts serve warrants on every officer present. Harding backs against a wall, his face a mask of disbelief. This is insane. We're police officers. Patel approaches him slowly, a predator closing in on his prey. Detective Harding, you are under arrest for evidence tampering, false imprisonment, and deprivation of rights under color of law. I want a lawyer. You'll get one, Patel says. He signals to his team at the door. Bring her in. The front doors open again, and Eva Rostova enters. She is no longer in handcuffs, no longer a victim. She wears her FBI windbreaker, her federal credentials displayed prominently on a chain around her neck. The entire station goes silent. Patel holds up Eva's badge for everyone to see. For those of you who don't know, this is Special Agent Eva Rostova, the lead investigator for Operation Kingfisher. The shock hits the room like a physical wave. The realization dawns on every face. Eva wasn't their victim. She was their judge, jury, and executioner. Agent Rostova has been investigating this department for 15 years, Patel continues, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. 15 years. Every dirty arrest they had ever made, she had watched. Every piece of evidence they had planted, she had documented. Every constitutional right they had violated, she had recorded. Harding's face goes white. 15 years. Eva steps forward, her voice carrying the full weight and authority of the federal government. Every illegal search, every planted drug charge, every civil rights violation. She pulls out her phone, the same encrypted device they had ignored during her raid. On this phone is 2,000 hours of surveillance footage, 300 recorded conversations, and 67 documented instances of evidence planting. The numbers hit the room like sledgehammers. Agent Rostova's investigation, Patel takes over, has yielded federal indictments against 23 officers of this district. 23, nearly half the department. Eva opens her briefcase and pulls out a thick file. The real case file, her life's work. Detective Harding, 17 confirmed evidence plantings, 43 illegal searches, 26 constitutional violations. Harding's knees buckle. Sergeant Miller, 22 counts of evidence tampering, 31 falsified arrest reports, conspiracy to obstruct justice. Miller slumps against the wall, defeated. Captain Thorne, conspiracy to operate a criminal enterprise under color of law, systematic violation of the constitutional rights of the citizens of Chicago. Thorne closes his eyes, a man already in his grave. Eva continues reading, name after name, crime after crime, each one meticulously documented. The federal investigation she had built brick by brick, case by case, violation by violation, over a decade and a half. Operation Kingfisher has documented systematic corruption in this district spanning 2 decades, Patel announces. This wasn't about recent crimes. This was about exposing a deep institutional rot. Federal evidence teams begin wheeling out computers, file cabinets, and boxes of evidence. Harding finds his voice, a pathetic squeak. We were just doing our jobs. Eva faces him directly, her eyes burning with a cold fire. Planting drugs on innocent people isn't police work, detective. It's a criminal conspiracy. She activates her phone's speaker and plays back the audio from her own raid. Harding's voice, clear as crystal. Look what we have here. The sound of the plastic baggie being pulled from her purse. Then Eva's voice. I watched you plant it. The recording continues. Every threat, Every violation, every self-incriminating word preserved forever. Harding's own body camera had betrayed him. Agent Rostova's emergency beacon was activated the moment you put her in that holding cell, Patel explains to the stunned officers. Federal surveillance recorded everything that followed. The pieces clicked together for everyone in the room. Her unnatural calm during the arrest, her encyclopedic legal knowledge, her precise questions. She wasn't panicking because she knew backup wasn't just coming. It was already there, listening, watching, recording. She was collecting evidence because that's what federal agents do. Patel holds up a small, scorched device. This digital recorder was hidden in the base of Agent Rostova's bedroom lamp. It captured the entire illegal raid, including every word you said. The detective who planted the evidence, the sergeant who threatened her, the captain who ordered the cover-up. All recorded, all documented, all admissible in federal court. Ava's 15-year investigation culminates in this single, shattering moment. Every corrupt officer identified, every crime documented, every victim, past and present, vindicated. The evidence doesn't just show individual misconduct. It reveals a systematic, criminal enterprise, masquerading as a police department. Patel addresses the room one final time. Federal charges will be filed within 24 hours. The great, slow machinery of justice begins to turn, and Ava Rostova, after 15 years of patient, solitary work in the shadows, finally has her case. Harding's corruption file is 6 inches thick. Tonight wasn't about drugs or a noise complaint. It was about justice. Long delayed, finally, brutally, delivered. 6 months later, the federal district court buzzes with the low hum of anticipation. The corruption trial of the decade is reaching its conclusion. Eva sits at the prosecutor's table, calm and composed. 15 years of her life's work are condensed into the evidence boxes stacked 10 feet high against the courtroom wall. The judge reviews the verdict forms. 23 defendants, hundreds of charges. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asks. The foreman, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, stands. We have, Your Honor. Harding sits in the defendant's chair. The crisp police uniform has been replaced by a baggy federal orange jumpsuit. His hands shake as the foreman begins to speak. On the charge of conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law, we, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Harding, guilty. Eva allows herself a small, almost imperceptible smile. The first domino falls. On the charge of evidence tampering, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of false imprisonment, we find the defendant guilty. 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 Each word is a hammer blow, echoing through the silent courtroom. Sergeant Miller receives a sentence of 12 years in federal prison. Captain Thorne gets 15. Harding, the ringleader, draws a sentence of 20 years. Their badges meant nothing. Their uniforms offered no protection. Federal law applies to everyone. After the sentencing, Ava steps into the courthouse hallway. She is immediately swarmed by reporters. Agent Rostova, how does it feel to finally close this case? What message does this send to law enforcement? Ava considers the question for a moment, the flashes of the cameras reflecting in her eyes. This sends a message that no one is above the law. Justice requires patience, courage, and people who are willing to work within the system, no matter how long it takes, to hold the powerful accountable. She pauses, choosing her final words with care. Truth doesn't disappear when it's buried. It just waits for the right moment to surface. Officer Maya Chen, now Detective Chen, approaches through the crowd. She testified for the prosecution, turning state's evidence against the men who had trained her. She chose her conscience over corruption. Agent Rostova, she says, her voice thick with emotion. Detective, Eva replies, a warm smile finally reaching her eyes. Thank you, Chen says, for giving me the chance to do the right thing. You made that choice all by yourself, Detective. That's what matters. Chen's career survived. She's now assigned to a federal task force, a new beginning, earned through an act of profound moral courage. As Ava walks to her car, her phone buzzes. It's Director Patel. Outstanding work, Marshal. The Public Integrity Section wants to discuss your next assignment. Eva looks back at the courthouse, a temple of justice where a great victory was just won. But there is always more work to be done. What's the case, sir? Systematic abuse allegations at a series of private immigration detention facilities in Arizona. It's a mess. Could take years to build a case from the inside. Years of deep undercover work, patient evidence gathering, methodical, painstaking justice building. I'll take it, she says without a moment's hesitation. This is what she does. This is who she is. A federal agent, a truth seeker, a justice builder. Reform doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. One corrupt system at a time, one patient investigation at a time. Eva Rostova drives away from the courthouse, heading toward her next flight, her next identity, her next case file. The work continues. The mission endures. Because corruption hides in the darkness, but federal agents like Eva Rostova work in the light. And the light, eventually, always wins. You've just witnessed a story of incredible courage and the slow, grinding power of justice. But stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're a mirror. They force us to ask hard questions. What does it take to stand up to corruption in our own lives, in our own communities? When you see something wrong, do you turn away, or do you become the one who starts the 15-year journey to make it right? Think about it. And while you do, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, hit that like button, and share this video. Because awareness is the first step, but it's not the last. The work never ends.